We are back in session. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the May 27th, 2014 meeting of the Maricopa Community College District Governing Board. The first item on the agenda is to recess the meeting and go into a public hearing for consideration of adoption of budgets for the 2014 and 15 school year, as well as truth in taxation. The first item on the agenda for that is number 2A, a truth in taxation hearing. It's required under state law. The Maricopa County Community College District is considering a proposal to increase primary property taxes in fiscal year 2014-15 on existing property. The proposed increase is 2%, which equals $8,995,039 in additional property tax revenues. At this time, I will afford any resident or taxpayer who has submitted the form to the opportunity to address the governing board concerning the proposed action under consideration to increase property taxes on existing property. I have 3 people that have submitted forms for this item. We'll start in the order that I've been given. Monica Dorsey, first on the list. Monica, just for the record, speak loudly, give your name and where you're from, also who you represent, and limit your discussion to about 5 minutes if you could. Monica, hold up just 1 second until we get you some noise here. Thank you. It'll work.
And shall make such appropriations as shall provide for their development and improvement. Because the legislature has not provided for the proper maintenance of our Maricopa community colleges and withdrawn all funding, we find ourselves here yet again to speak in support of a tax increase to fund the work of Maricopa community colleges. Valley Interfaith Project has long recognized the huge economic driver that these campuses are for our county and the entire state, and we believe everything that must be done to maintain this effort should be done. Valley Interfaith Project supports this tax increase. The affordable education and training opportunities are critical to the residents of this county and the real economic recovery we have yet to see. The educational experience provided at the campuses of Maricopa Community Colleges is an excellent value for the students and for all the residents of this county who benefit from having an educated and well-trained workforce. We urge the board to approve the 2% tax increase, and thank you.
Thank you. And by the way, anybody that wants their written records into the public record, just drop them off here in the front and we'll make sure that they make it into the public record. Next on the list is Clorinda Lozano. Please again state your name and...
Clorinda Lozano. Maricopa County Community College District elected board members intends to vote on a tax hike. Why punish the residents? The recent data breaches has affected our family personally, and I got this from my husband this morning, and now you're asking us to pay to fix costly mistakes by negligent management. These problems have been acknowledged for some time, and we, the residents of Maricopa County, have to make a difference for all the students that need a chance of a lifetime. The district is spending $20 million to accommodate the breach one. I understand we have new board members who just threw in their hats, impressed to be accepted, as if they were accountants. Tuition went up last month, the fourth time in 7 years. If we raise it tonight, it will be the 5th time. It's a shame. Twice in a year, MCCCD, if you do this, it's not just the students who are being punished. We have 10 college districts, and I should know, I went to 4 of them. I graduated from Phoenix College in 2005. I was one of the lucky ones with others, but we're not finished nor done with this issue. It's going to cost too much, and enough is enough. Fool us once, shame on us. Fool us twice, shame on you. The economy is not going up, and it will be years before it does. Taxing our residents will be a hard shot for many of the few jobs there are in low pay. Our teens, college and university students know how difficult it is for many. It's like a battlefield out there competing for the same job. Word of the day, can't afford college, stay home, babysit, wash dishes, or whatever. Word of tonight, think. Do what is better for what your concern is for the public. The public did not do this to you. You created this monster yourselves. Take responsibility for your actions. Do not punish this in Maricopa County residents. Say what you need to say. I respect Mrs. Pearson for the bravery of speaking in her opinions and comments at board meetings. She's in touch with her commitment for Maricopa County. And I also thank Dr. Sally because I graduated and got my first associate, and Ms. Cardia, where I got my, here at Phoenix College, my certifications to help others in need. And that's what I do. I can take care of those who have behavioral health problems, to courts, for behavioral agencies, as I lobby nonprofit for the public body of Arizona. Thank you. Say what you need to say. Good night. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Last on this item is Mr. Charles Townsell. Dr. Charles Townsell, sorry.
My name is Charles Townsell, and let me just say, Mr. President and members of the board, ladies and gentlemen, I do not have a prepared text for my presentation regarding taxes, but I would say I am opposed to raising taxes, and I'm opposed to raising taxes because, as I remember reading not too long ago, going through some of your minutes, the president last year was opposed to tuition increases, and I think he said in that document that tuition had been raised 4 times out of the last 7 years. Now, to me, that's unrealistic, it's ridiculous, and it's taking advantage of the public. We all love the community colleges. The community colleges all do a good job. But there are other means of getting finances. I think I also read someplace where the state at one time was financing community colleges at 10%, something like that, and now it's down to 1%. And when I read that, I said, something's wrong with the lobbyist. If you have a lobbyist, that lobbyist ought to be able to keep you at 10% and above. And one of the duties of the chancellor is to make certain that the legislature does not cut your budget. And if that is not happening, then something is wrong with the chancellor. And it just seems to me that we've got to get to a point where everybody else seems to be. The economic conditions across this country, the conditions are horrible. We're not making any more money in Maricopa County than they are making in someplace else, I would imagine. And just to digress, I read the board's agenda today, and I said, I wonder if those people get paid. And then I said, no, they don't get paid. But you guys ought to get paid. You ought to be lobbying the legislature to pay you for sitting up there from, I believe you started about 2:30. And when you get out of here, it may be 11:30. So you need to be paid. The Dade County Public Schools pays its board members $35,000 a year. Now, maybe you ought to do some research around the country and see what these school boards are being paid so you can get paid as well. Now, the other thing that bothers me with these taxes, I read in the paper yesterday, I guess, that the 10 college districts has about 430 million in unrestricted net assets. That's great. But then I read further, most of the expenditures are you're going to expend some of that money, so the paper says, and you can't always believe what you read in the paper. But you're supposed to be spending some of that 430 million next year. Now it says most of the expenditures are undetermined. How can you prepare a budget with most of the expenditures, 190 million, are undetermined? That doesn't make sense at all if you're talking about building a budget for 14-15. We ought to know where you should have, as board members, an outline of where that $190 million is supposed to be going, rather than to just say undetermined. There are some other kinds of things. I think I read someplace where you talk about building another campus someplace. Maybe you ought to defer that for a while. Cut back on some of these expenditures that are not necessary right now, when we're not making any money. Now, I can talk. I can say whatever I want to talk. I'm 80 years old, and I'm not afraid. Now, you folks sitting out here, you scared to say anything for some reason or another. And some of you board members are afraid to say anything for some reason or another. But you know it's not right to talk about $195 million undetermined. You know that's not right. If it's $190-something million, then what are you going to do with the balance? So I don't know what you did or whether you've already voted for the tax increase. Oh, the other thing, last time I was here, March 25th, I heard one of the board members talk about this. At that time, you wanted to increase tuition by 5%. And I think this board member said, well, okay, I may go along with it if you increase it by 3%. And then give 1% to the faculty. How you run an operation like that? Out of the clear blue sky, you're going to give 1% to the faculty. Doesn't make sense to me. And I've been in this business for 60 years. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. That's the last of the public. Do we have any conversation from members of the board on this subject? Hearing none, that concludes the Truth in Taxation hearing. Next hearing is on item 2B, a public hearing concerning the adoption of the proposed budget for the Maricopa County Community College District for fiscal year 14-15. This hearing is required under state law. The purpose of the hearing is to give any resident or taxpayer the opportunity to protest the inclusion of any item in the proposed budget. But first, I'm going to ask Mrs. Thompson and her staff to explain on behalf of the governing board the proposed budget.
Mr. President, members of the board, we have presented before the board in February, March, and April previously to discuss our proposal on the budget, revenue increases, and also proposed uses of funds. And Gay Murphy will provide tonight's update for action later on in the meeting.
Mr. President, do you have a copy of the proposed budget for the people in the audience?
Right there. The budget will be posted, so if anybody's interested, it will be on the internet. If those of you that were
I brought
downloaded
an
the
extra
board,
copy of the budget. He can have my copy.
those of you that can get to the internet, it's posted under this board agenda, the entire budget, so you're welcome to get to that as well. Sorry, okay.
Thank you, Mr. President, governing board members, Chancellor Glasper, CEC members, members of the public. It is my pleasure to talk to you tonight about the proposed 2014-15 budget. The proposed budget provides a total 38.1 million increase and overall growth of 2.2%. The Maricopa College District budgets activities in 4 distinct funds. The general operating fund is our largest fund, and it supports the day-to-day operating activities of the district. It does include new revenue from the approved $3 tuition increase, but most of that is fund balance. The fund balance is the district's emergency reserves that have built up over years, as well as savings that we will use to replace and to upgrade our large information technology systems, which now are all aged and in need of replacement. This includes our student information system, our accounting system, our budget system, and our human resources system. The auxiliary fund is mostly fee-for-service activities where we charge folks a fee, we deliver a service. So all the revenues that go into that fund are pretty much used to provide that service. And the restricted fund is where we report mostly federal financial aid. The uses in the restricted fund are for those resources that Maricopa receives for which there is an outside, mostly legal determination for how those funds must be spent. And we really don't have flexibility for a lot of that because the users, either contracts or legal requirements, specify how those funds must be used. But again, at Maricopa, most of it is federal financial aid. For our capital fund, we see a small reduction for next year, which is really a good thing as we move towards the end of our 2004 capital project. With our 2004 capital bond program, we have sold $951 million in bonds, and we are really pleased for all of the great things we provided for the district, and we will move towards completion, and we should see further reduction in funds for our capital. With our general operating fund, being that is our largest fund for Maricopa, we are looking at primary tax levy and monies that we receive from the Salt River project in lieu of property tax. We are looking at about $8.9 million in total from new property added to the tax rolls from new construction. And we've also asked the board to consider a 2% property tax levy increase, which is $8.4 million. The proposed primary rate would go to $1.2824, a .0072 decrease in the rate, even though the overall amount of funding will increase. And this is because finally property values have started to increase across the county. The board has approved a $3 increase in tuition. Although most of the tuition revenue is passed through to the colleges to support new students as they come to the colleges seeking services. We also have to make adjustments in the revenue that we're projecting. Although we would like to see more state aid for operating support this year, we are seeing a $500,000 reduction, which is tied to enrollment decline from 2 years ago. We're also looking at a reduction in non-resident tuition payments and in bookstores revenues, in part from fewer numbers of students, as well as national movement that really lets students buy their books pretty much anywhere they want. They have much more freedom now in acquiring their books. Also, when we look at property taxes, it is a very, very stable revenue, but we never collect 100% of what we levy. We're always a little bit short, and it can be timing adjustments, it can be decisions that were made to where folks have issued tax protests that have been resolved. So we always hold aside as an expense about 1 or 2% of that estimated total. This year, because things are doing a little better in the economy, we'd like to hold aside a little bit less of that. So we're going to put back on, we're going to be able to collect about 900,000 more, we believe, than what we had to offset and save for in the past. So although we have these increases, we're going to have to make adjustments of about $4.2 million. So we believe we'll have a net $20.9 million increase. As for the potential uses, we're looking at some mandatory expenditures, which are obligations that will necessitate spending an additional $2.8 million next year. These range from a small increase in the retirement system contribution rate and also employee health insurance benefits that the board approved. We also are looking at an increase in adjustments that are in employees' policy manuals for education and anniversary increases, and also with our computing systems, some of those are up for renewal and licensing, and this would be just an inflationary cost on license and renewals. We're also recommending a limited number of support for high priority needs for the district. The largest will be for our information technology. Specifically, this will be the implementation costs of our enterprise computing systems. We are looking at basically all of our big district-wide computing systems that we will need to upgrade. We are looking at going to cloud computing, to a hosted type of system. So this will be, we expected this. It is the end of life for a lot of our systems. We can no longer patch and upgrade them. Some of them we're just flat out going to have to replace. So we're also looking at an increase in need-based scholarships for students. That will help those students who may have difficulty in part because of the $3 increase in tuition. We're also going to look at our Student Success Initiative, which we've started and we've been working to implement to make things better for our students, as well as our Seamless Student Experience, which will try and standardize and provide best practices to students across the district. We're also looking at a situation that developed during the recession when we were hiring in faculty at salaries higher than our existing faculty at a time when the board was not able to, or the district was not able to really look at having enough resources to provide step increases on an annual basis. So we're hoping to correct that salary inversion problem. And then there's an increase available for other adjustments that the board may see fit, including possibly a salary adjustment for the rest of employees. So other operating highlights, I talked about the auxiliary fund. Again, this is pretty much fee for service, and the restricted fund, there was no increase there, but we had seen sizable increases in those last year. So this is kind of just resetting the budget to be a little bit more in line with where we think we're going to end up. The only difference we have is with our restricted fund. This year we are really happy to have $1.4 million increase in new state aid for STEM funding. And STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math, and also workforce funding. We have to use these funds specifically for workforce and STEM programs, so it's not available as a general use monies, but we were really happy to get them, and we hope that the legislature will be more forthcoming in the future to provide additional resources for STEM funding because it is very important and expensive. For our capital program, we're looking at, again, a $15 million decline as we spend toward the end of our capital bond program. We have sold all of the $951 million. Our secondary tax levy and the SRP and lieu payment would increase to $84.5 million. It's an increase of $3.6 million, and we will use that money to offset the debt service on those bonds. The secondary tax rate will drop to 0.263, which is a drop of 0.0096. Again, more revenue, but because property values increased, we had to set the rate a little bit lower so we would not over-collect. And I'm happy to answer questions.
We may have some in a bit. At this time, though, I'll afford any resident or taxpayer the opportunity to address the governing board concerning the proposed action under consideration. I have nobody signed up for that, so we will go to board members to see if they have any questions. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, come on up.
I didn't know we had to be signed up, so.
That's right. Just give me your name and.
My name is Al Zaccardi.
And the
I live
organization?
across the street from Scottsdale Community College. I have 3 comments. Number 1, I would suggest that you reduce your expenses rather than increase our taxes. Number 2, the people of Maricopa County may one day prevent you folks from assessing any taxes. That could happen. Not a threat, just a suggestion. And in the method that Michelle Obama would approach it, may I suggest, no more taxes. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? All right, any questions on the budget from members of the board? We've had numerous meetings on the budget, so you've probably been here in the past, you've heard all the questions already. That concludes the public hearings. The next items on the agenda is to convene a special meeting of the board. The 2 items on the agenda are to vote on both the approval of the budget and the potential increase in property taxes. So I'd like to convene the special board meeting of May 27, 2014. First item on the agenda is 2A1, a motion to levy the increased property taxes as previously described. Is there a motion from the board to that effect?
So moved.
I have a motion from Mr. Gutierrez. Second from Mr. Doyle Burke. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
I would like a roll call vote.
I'm sorry, there will be, and I apologize. Is there any additional discussion from board members on the property tax increase? We will have an individual roll call vote, so you're welcome to do it at that time. In accordance with state law, the governing board will now vote on this motion by roll call vote. First of all, Mr. Burke.
Aye.
Mr. Gutierrez.
Chairman, before I vote, just a brief statement. I have said often since I've come on this board that the current economic model for the community college will not be sustained. Mr. Zaccardi is talking about taking away our ability to raise property taxes. The legislature has reduced its obligation to community college to virtually zero. The STEM fund you heard Ms. Murphy talk about is a limited purpose fund. It cannot fund general obligations. When I left the legislature, indeed some years ago, there was a formula that had been in place that was agreed to for decades. And that formula was that the funding for community colleges would primarily come from 3 sources. The first source was a property tax. When appropriate, it could be raised by 2%. The second source was tuition. And the third source was a state aid imputed by the budget committees, and it varied by enrollment at the community colleges, but was as high as 25% in the 80s. It came down substantially over a period of time, and then a few years ago it dropped to virtually zero, leaving the funding for the community colleges simply 2 sources of funds. I absolutely agree that over a long period of time, this economic model cannot be sustained. We cannot continue to raise tuition and continue to raise taxes every year. But we are faced with a, I think, a serious crisis going forward. And that is, to maintain the quality of the community colleges in this county. And I do believe that most people in this county are overwhelmingly proud of this system. This is often referred to as the flagship system in the country. This is often referred to as having the greatest success with students in the country. It has a diversity of programming that is unmatchable in the United States. In order to maintain that level of quality, we need a bridge period of time. The legislature has to consider its obligation to community colleges, whether it has an obligation or whether it does not. And if it does not, then it has to allow the colleges other sources of income in order to be able to proceed forward or be public with their intent, that is to slowly kill the colleges, because that is what will happen. They will slowly kill the colleges. And so I made the motion to adopt this tax, and I make it, lamentably. Had we had the 10 or 15%, just 10 or 15% support from the state, I wouldn't be making this motion. We wouldn't be relying on students. But the fact is we don't. The fact is that they have, in my opinion, abdicated their responsibility to education in this state and abdicated their responsibility specifically to the community colleges in this state. And that abdication cannot stand. And yes, I agree with all of you who lament raising taxes. But I would ask you to consider why we're forced into this position of doing so. Somebody mentioned we should just simply cut. In the past 4 years, and I believe it's 5 years, Ms. Thompson will correct me, we've cut over $60 million. This district has cut over $60 million. $60 million. In 1 year, the legislature cut this district by $40+ million in 1 year. And that has taken the district, therefore, immense cuts. Somebody commented on the funds that are being carried forward. They are not unrestricted. There are approximately 60 days of operating time for this district if we ran into a crisis. That is, by most accounts, by most auditing organizations or public entities, an appropriate amount to keep in reserve. And there are other restricted funds. There are some unrestricted funds for uses that we know are coming. There is, I know I'm going long, but this is an important vote. There is a thought that somehow the district was irresponsible in the breach that occurred. And the breach that occurred, I'm talking about the IT breach that's going to cost at this point $17 million. That breach is still being investigated, and perhaps soon we will have a full report on it. But I want you to keep in mind this. The Pentagon was hacked. Target was hacked. General Motors was hacked. The University of Pittsburgh was hacked. The University of Maryland was hacked. Hacking into a major public entity, and a major entity has unfortunately become part of cyber warfare in America today. And the district is responding appropriately. But yes, some of those funds will be used for that purpose. Now think about it for a second. What if we decided not to use it? What if we decided to just let hackers go on in after we realize that it's occurred? That obviously is not an acceptable route. So yes, I make the motion. I lament the fact that I have to do that. I know why I have to do that. I know that we have to begin to think about a new economic model for this district for the future. But I think that it is our responsibility at this point to keep this system, this extraordinarily successful system, going forward. So, Mr. Chairman, I vote aye.
Thank you. Mr. Lumm?
I vote aye. I'd like to say my vote. I think it's important that we support the system. I know a lot of people, and I'm getting a lot of pressure to not vote for a tax increase, and you know, and I don't want to. But I have families and friends, and I'm talking to students daily that really need the system, and this is their getting out of poverty. This is getting out of minimum wage jobs. And they see this as their future. Education is their future, and you can be for education and you be against taxes. You're not for education. I mean, I say so often. I support education, but I don't support paying for it. I mean, it just doesn't make any kind of sense to me. There's a cost to the system, and the cost isn't funded by tuition alone. I want to keep the tuition costs as low as possible, and I think as a taxpayer, I want to share this burden, so I vote aye.
Mrs. Pearson?
I'd like to explain my vote.
Go ahead.
First of all, the comments about the 190 million that we have no idea are what they're being spent on. I just want to first explain that there's discussions as to what this money is going to be spent on. Those are called executive session. So, and there are also contract negotiations, which we don't want to tell everyone, this is how much we're going to pay for this piece of property, or this is what we're going to pay for this negotiation. That's why they're held in executive session. So, we have budget people that understand what it takes to have a AAA rating, which then saves us in the interest rate that we have to pay for everything that we do. And that requires us to be financially sound. And while it's been said that 60 days, which we actually have 74 days before we spend the 190 on the things that we're going to need to do this next year, that have been intelligently estimated that we need to be prepared to spend on the things that we're moving forward on negotiating, 74 days is not that great. As in business, that's not even considered responsible. And an operation this size, with this many people's lives dependent on this system working and running, and not having any shutdowns for any kind of emergency or crisis situation, that's actually kind of scary. That we only have 74 days of operational money. But everybody acts like it's like, you know, some big horrible thing that we do as a district to have this kind of money, when even against this kind of ill-informed or ill-advised position, I want to thank Dr. Glasper for being and Debbie and your staff for the brilliance of everything that happens financially to have this district qualified, not once, not twice, 3 times, as one of the highest ratings financially that you can have as a community college system. And one this big, and this complicated, and this complex, we can't be beat for the staff and the way that we are managing things financially. We have been truly blessed. The issue for the property taxes. This has been very, very frustrating for me. And Chris, Dr. Bustamante can vouch for me on this. The legislature, in my opinion, since 1980 has been derelict and irresponsible to their community colleges. And it has been something that I have been called even to the woodshed
as a legislator, for my defiance to this mentality that what is going on with the funding for community colleges is appropriate. And I know the political climate there, and I know how hard Dr. Bustamante and I worked, and I know how hard our legislators work, and I know how our lobbyists work. And we've got to figure out another way of going about getting the recognition that we need for the funding we need for community colleges. We have programs we need to fund. We have things we need to do. We need to be moving forward, and we have people who are counting on us, and we have people who are needing us, and who we are their only hope. To stop moving forward is to abandon and throw them away. To leave them isolated in a life that is irresponsible. We have to be moving forward, we have to be growing, and we have to be addressing the needs of the people, or we don't need to exist. Because it is our purpose for existing, to reach those people who have no other hope or chance. And I know this is going to sound totally contradictory, because I don't believe that the answer is in property taxes. I have a moral objection to property taxes. I can't, in my conscience, even though I work every day with girls, single moms, who we are their only hope out of poverty, cannot continue to absolve the state and continue to do something that I feel is immoral, I feel is wrong. I have a moral objection to property taxes, and so therefore I vote no.
Thank you. Most of what I wanted to say has been said. I think if there's anything I want to add, a couple of weeks ago, I was opposed to the property tax increase, and over the last couple of weeks, I spent a lot of time talking to members of staff and members of the community. My emails and communication have been fairly well balanced in terms of not increasing the taxes and making sure that the taxes we do get from the public are used appropriately. And that's where I spent my time. I want to make sure that any additional investment that the community makes and our students make through tuition return an investment to all those involved. And over the last couple of weeks, I've looked at and re-looked at some of our own data that shows how well we've been doing in terms of that use. We have 4 outcomes that the district is held accountable for by the board. They involve transfers to colleges, four-year colleges for baccalaureate degrees, workforce development, developmental education, and community engagement. We've had those for a number of years. We track those. We have a report on that every November where we hold the chancellor and his staff accountable to making some improvements on those. I want to make sure that we are on that right track. And after spending that kind of time in the last couple of weeks, I'm more inclined now to support what is being done and what you saw in the budget in terms of where we're going to put this additional money. I think all have a nexus to these 4 outcomes. There are some issues that we're going to be spending money on that I wish we didn't have to spend money on. Obviously, the IT situation. I've got a background in computers. I know that software has a life. And I know, quite honestly, that a number of our software systems that we rely on for the day-to-day operation of the district, both internally and externally, have reached the end of their life. Microsoft did that with XP in the last year. It's the same thing with the software that we've purchased. So we need to make sure that our students and the community are behind these efforts. And again, I don't like raising anybody's taxes, especially mine. But quite frankly, I thought about this morning when I was having breakfast. My breakfast is going to cost more than my taxes increase will for this coming 14-15 budget year. So I join those in favor of this vote. So on a vote of 4-1, the motion is passed. Item number 2A2 of the agenda is approval of the proposed 14-15 Maricopa County Community College District budget. In approving the budget, the board also authorizes the expenditure of budgeted revenues and realized or designated fund balances within the total amount budgeted in each fund. The board has been presented with a budget that should be acted on whether or not, and we have approved the 2% tax in the existing tax levy. If the board, I'll skip over that since we have approved it. The budget will remain the same if that wasn't going to be passed, and we are going to accept a motion to pass the budget as presented.
Second.
Mr. Burke moves, and Ms. Pearson seconds. Any discussion from members of the board? We'll also do a roll call vote. All right, I will alphabetical order once again. Mr. Burke.
Aye.
Mr. Gutierrez.
Aye.
Mr. Lumm.
Yes.
Ms. Pearson.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye on a 5-to-1 vote. The motion passes. The Maricopa Community College budget for 2014-15 has been adopted. We now adjourn the special meeting and go right into our regular meeting. I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I would ask Mr. Gutierrez to lead us in that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez. We have awards tonight. We'll start with Maricopa Community, or Mesa Community College, Dr. Pan.
With your permission, Chair, I would like to approach the podium.
You may do so.
Thank you. President Saar, members of the Governing Board, Chancellor Glasper, CEC members, and audience. It is truly my honor pleasure tonight to recommend to you for your consideration to grant Professor Emeritus status to one of the finest faculty member at Mesa Community College. I would like to ask Professor Sheila Merritt to join me. Professor Merritt spent 30 years at Mesa Community College teaching communications, is a true leader dedicated to student success, student completion. She was an adjunct faculty member at Mesa Community College for about 10 years and 20 years as a board-approved residential faculty member. During her tenure at Mesa Community College, she is instrumental in creating, spearheading many important initiatives, including online curriculum, developing e-learning standards. She's a constant advocate for students and their success. She served as a Tech Connect editor, faculty member for this learning that not only she taught herself, but she shared her expertise, knowledge, and helping others in the institution. She's also helped to develop global relationship, served as a representative to our program in Netherlands years ago. She's a faculty member. Equality Matters is a national standards for e-learning program. So she's a evaluator for Quality Matters. She's a Canvas pilot group member. Mesa Community College piloted Canvas program, but she was one of the earliest adopter. She's also e-learning committee participant and a previous web developer. I can go on and on about her commitment, her innovation at Mesa Community College. She is truly one of the outstanding finest faculty members we have in our district, so I'd like to present that to you for your consideration. Let me invite Professor Merritt to say a few words.
I would
like to begin by thanking Dr. Pan for his kind remarks and the board for this distinction. I remember shortly after I began working at MCC, I was in a meeting, and I was asked as part of a broader discussion to identify something which I thought was done exceptionally well at MCC and, by extension, Maricopa Community Colleges. My answer then is the same as my answer would be now 20 years later, and that is that I have, besides the fact that I get paid to do something that I love to do with people that I respect, I believe that MCC and Maricopa Community Colleges has created an environment that is so encouraging to personal and professional growth. And for all of the things to which Dr. Pan alluded in my career, I would have to point to some opportunity that I was given by Maricopa Community Colleges and MCC, some encouragement that I was given by my coworkers or by my chair. And for that, I would need to share the honor in every way. And I am very grateful for this. I am grateful for the opportunity that I've had to work here for many years. And so I thank you very much.
We thank you.
Next, we have our flagship college represented by Dr. Sally, Phoenix College.
President Saar requests approval to approach you from the podium.
Yes.
Well, good evening, President Saar, members of the governing board, CEC colleagues and guests. It is indeed my pleasure to share with you information about three of our emeritus distinction honorees. Denny Sheehan is not able to be with us tonight, but he has participated in numerous activities at the college, including faculty senate, served as chair of the business department, and he served for 22 years. And I do want to mention that he was very active on campus, and he was also very fond of having a staff dining room, faculty staff dining room. So even when we remodeled Hanley Center, we made sure, per Denny, that we salvaged our faculty staff dining room. Also, Rick Cups is not able to be here tonight. He has served for 30 years in the physical sciences department. His favorite topic to teach is physics, and he's also served on the Engineering Instructional Council. So again, you can see these two individuals are very gifted, very involved not only at the campus level, but at the district level. I would like to let you know that Bill Rowe is here tonight, and so I'd like to have Bill join me at the podium. Let me tell you a little bit about Bill. He has 30 years of distinguished service at Phoenix College in psychology. He has also completed postmaster's coursework so that he could teach, in addition to psychology, in social science and human development. He's won numerous awards over the year, including those from NISOD. And in addition to that, he created 2 courses to serve our students, Human Factors Psychology and Altered States in Self-Development. And again, he was very interested in ensuring that students had options for research and expanded their world of psychology. I want you to know that his classes have always been full. When we look at the loads for faculty and the enrollment, he has a very strong student following, and we're really going to miss him. So again, I present Mr. Rowe for your consideration, and I'd like to have him have an opportunity to share some comments with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Very briefly, I started adult education in Watts in the mid-'70s. Everything that has been said tonight and everything I have done since coming to Maricopa has resonated in terms of the importance for the folks of the county to do well and to elevate themselves. It's been my pleasure to serve under Dr. Sally and my chair and my fellow colleagues and the board, and I appreciate this wonderful honor. Thank you.
Mr. President, I would just like to say that I know Dr. Rowe quite well. We have been friends for some time. This is, in a sense, a sad day to sort of see you leave, but I hope you hang around for a very, very long time, Bill. Bill is an extraordinary guy. Everything that was said about him is indeed true, and he is one heck of an inspiration to a lot of students. So thank you, Bill.
Chancellor Glasper.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, it is my pleasure tonight to recognize our chair, Mr. Dana Saar. There was a press release that went out, and I would just like to read from the press release. The Maricopa Community College's governing board president receives national recognition for trustee commitment. The Association of Community College Trustees has recognized Maricopa Community College's board president, Dana Saar, for his commitment to excellence in community college governance. Mr. Saar completed the ACCT's Community College Governance Recognition Program after participating in seminars and trainings about financial oversight, institutional accreditation, and governance leadership. The association serves the needs of community college trustees and has designed this particular program as a way to share knowledge essential to the practice of exemplary community college governance and provide individual trustees an opportunity to earn a certificate of participation. And the certificate is available only to ACCT members of community college boards. In this particular press release, Narcissa Polonia, the Executive Vice President, states that this certificate is a hallmark of individual trustee learning at the national level, and I would like to personally acknowledge and thank Mr. Saar for leading our district in this governance certificate achievement and also leading the ability to meet the needs of our communities and our students. Mr. Saar, I will pass this down to you, sir.
Point of personal privilege.
Why not?
I'd like to point out this program started about 2 years ago. Mr. Saar is the first trustee in the nation to complete it.
Thank you. It's just a sign that schooling in any form never ends. Next, under rewards and recognitions, we recognize Dr. Maria Harper Marinick.
Well, we're going to recognize some students and
I
faculty.
hope so.
Thank you. Mr. Saar, members of the board, Chancellor Glasper, CEC, and colleagues and guests. As we conclude the academic year, we would like to recognize our athletes for their success in academics and also sports. And I would like to ask Samantha Izell to come to the podium and make the presentation, please.
Thank you. Mr. President, governing board members, members of CEC, Chancellor Glasper, and guests, thank you for inviting DAC, which is the District Athletic Council, to recognize some of our student athletes and our accomplishments over the last couple years. I'm Samantha Izell. I'm the athletic director at Phoenix College and also the chair of our DAC Council. With me is John Mulhern, who is the athletic director at Mesa Community College and also a member of DAC. I want to start by recognizing our academics of our student athletes, as that's truly why we're here. We went back 2 years with statistics to present to you this evening. Individual academic All-Americans are recognized every summer. They're in process right now. They're due June 15th. So we had to actually go back 2 academic years, as those numbers won't be out until the middle of next month. However, I wanted to announce that in 2012 and 13, with a 3.6 GPA or higher, we had 86 individual academic All-Americans that were student athletes in Maricopa Community Colleges. In 2011 and 12, we had 73. For team academic All-Americans, which is a team GPA of 3.0 or higher, in 2011-12, we had 32. In 2012-13, we had 27. And Mesa Community College women's golf team was the top team in the nation with a 3.62 team GPA. For athletic accomplishments, We have acronyms in athletics quite a bit. So nicknames, acronyms, that's what we do. So for future reference in this presentation, NJCAA refers to our national recognition, the National Junior College Athletic Association. ACCAC refers to the Arizona Community College Athletic Association. And that would also include all of the community colleges outside of Maricopa that may have room and board in addition to tuition fees and books for scholarships. So when our students or our coaches are recognized in our conference as the top in that group, that means that they have excelled above teams with greater resources than what we can give our student athletes. In football, I'd like to announce Scottsdale Community College as the 2013 Valley of the Sun Bowl champions and also finished 4th in the nation. In 2012, Glendale Community College was the Valley of the Sun Bowl champion. In the last 3 years, we had Coaches of the Year for our conference in the ACCAC from Scottsdale, Mesa Community College, and Glendale Community College in football. 2 Players of the Year were from the Maricopa Community College District, again, for our conference from Scottsdale Community College and Mesa Community College. In volleyball, in 2013, our conference Coach of the Year for the ACCAC was Lisa Stuck from Glendale Community College. In men's cross country, we had 2 teams finish in, well, the same team, Paradise Valley Community College in cross country finished 5th place this year and last year in 3rd place. That's nationally at the national tournament. Men's and women's soccer in 12-13, Paradise Valley Community College was the national champion. In 12-13 as well, we had coaches and players from both PC and PVCC that were recognized as Conference Players of the Year. In 12-13, we had MVPs from 3 different positions in the soccer field that were all from Maricopa Community Colleges that were recognized as National Players of the Year, all from Paradise Valley Community College. In 12-13, both ACCAC Coach and Players of the Year from women's soccer were from Maricopa Community Colleges, Paradise Valley Community College, and Phoenix College. In men's track and field, Maricopa Community Colleges has had 3 national champions as well as the outstanding athlete of the NJCAA tournament in 12-13, all from Mesa Community College. In addition, there have been 4 individuals from Maricopa Community College that have placed in the top 5 events at the national tournament. Maricopa Community Colleges also had the male track and field athlete of the year for the conference, the ACCAC. In women's track and field, Maricopa Community Colleges had 1 national champion from Paradise Valley Community College. In addition, there have been 4 individuals from Maricopa Community Colleges that have placed in the top 5 events at the national tournament from Paradise Valley Community College and Mesa Community College. Men's golf. In 12-13, they were the NJCAA national champion runner-up. I'm sorry, yeah, that's right, runner-ups from Mesa, let me correct that. From Mesa Community College in 13-14 and the national golf champions in 12-13 from South Mountain Community College. 3 individual golfers all tied for 2nd place at the national tournament in 12-13, all from South Mountain Community College. In 12-13, National Coach of the Year for golf was from South Mountain Community College, and for 12-13 from Scottsdale Community College, 13-14 from South Mountain Community College, National Coaches of the Year. In women's golf, 1 Maricopa Community College school finished 4th at the national tournament, and that was Mesa Community College. In baseball, currently, as of about 4 hours ago, Mesa Community College is still competing in the national tournament. They went in ranked 1st. They won their game this afternoon, so they've now advanced to the semifinals and will play on Thursday. Their Coach of the Year was also the Conference Coach of the Year for this year. In softball, in 12-13, the District Coach of the Year was from Phoenix College. The national runners-up at the national tournament were from Phoenix College. Individual All-Americans, again, still pending because many of our sports are still in season right now. But for 12-13, we had 33 individual All-Americans. This is for their athletic performance. And in 13-14, we have 22 to this point. Now's the fun part because we actually have real students and real coaches here. This spring was a very exciting March Madness for Maricopa Community Colleges. I'd like to ask Mesa Community College head coach Corey Stevenson and her staff and players to come up. We recognize that many of our students have gone home for the summer or are working, so we weren't able to have entire teams come, but they did bring their national championship trophy. Mesa was a national runner-up a year ago and went back this year to win the national title. Coach Stevenson was named the District Coach of the Year, and Mesa's MVP for the tournament was Peace. You guys said it differently. Ukamara, Peace Ukamara from Mesa Community College. Their team GPA for this year, after winning a national championship, is a 3.25, so they will also be recognized as an academic All-American team. Let's give them a round of applause.
Coach Stevenson was also the National Junior College Division II Coach of the Year, and Pisa Makamura was the National
At the
Division
tournament,
II.
right? At the tournament
At the tournament, but she was also the National
for NJCAA?
Player of the Year.
Excellent.
So,
Congratulations.
2 more awards for that.
Great. Mesa Community College is also the first women's basketball team in Maricopa to ever win a national title in women's basketball. The only other team in Arizona to ever win that award is Central Arizona College, and they're at Division I, and we're in Division II. So that's a great accomplishment for Mesa. Congratulations. The last acknowledgement we have for this evening is our men's basketball team from Phoenix College. We'd ask that Coach Gordon bring up his student athletes to be recognized and their national championship trophy. I should mention prior to recognizing Phoenix College that for our conference coach of the year, the men's coach from Mesa Community College was recognized as coach of the year. For our Phoenix College team, Coach Gordon was recognized for several coaching accomplishments this year. The most prestigious, which is the National Coach of the Year for every community college in the country. He was voted National Coach of the Year. We also had our most valuable player. It was Brandon Brown at the national tournament, also an All-American. This is the first national championship for any men's basketball team in the history of community college in the state of Arizona at any level. So this is a great accomplishment for Phoenix College. Finally, we'd like to thank the board and CEC members for your continued support of our student athletes. Without your support, we couldn't have these accomplishments academically or athletically. Thank you for your time.
Several flagships, once again, goes to a couple of teams, and congratulations to the athletes and teams. I think we talk a little bit about athletes a lot, at least I do. Because it's such a great bargain. If you go out and take advantage of football, basketball, baseball, softball, all of the sports, we charge, I think, the most $5 to get in. You park 100 feet from the stadium, not 100 miles. And you get to sit on the 50-yard line or mid-court. So there's not a better bargain in Maricopa County than our athletics. And obviously, you heard tonight, there's a lot of good academics going on in our athletic programs. Excuse me. And I think a lot of that is due to the effort that coaches and athletic directors and other staff members put into our athletes. It's one of those success stories that we put our fingers on quite often in terms of how we get students who may not have been successful to this point, but always had that carrot out there of athletics, and we added to that the academic side of things, and they're going on to four-year colleges in huge numbers. So we congratulate all of our athletic teams and coaches. Thank you. Next thing on the agenda is a call to public, and we have two people that have submitted forms. The first on the agenda is Linda Brown. Linda, once again, if you give your name and who you represent, and please limit it to about 5 minutes, please.
This one or that one? I don't know. My name's Linda Brown. I am here as a board member for the Arizona Hispanic Community Forum. Thank you, President Saar, members of the board, for letting me speak tonight. Before I give my formal remarks, I just want to make a note about hacking in the Pentagon and Kmart, et cetera. I don't know if they had good, long-standing staffers who'd been raising red flags for a long time, warning that problems were coming, and that if they did, would they scapegoat them and fire them, essentially. That's what we're dealing with here. We're dealing not only with the crime, but the cover-up. And that's why I'm here tonight. I'm here as a representative of not only the forum, but Mi Familia Vota, Lucha, Promise Arizona, and Respect Respecto. I bring a message from all of those leaders in the Latino community. We are concerned about the well-being of the district as an institution. In wake of recent media coverage, it's clear that the public trust in the district is at stake, and the future of an organization that the Latino community relies on is being jeopardized. The administration is in violation of internal policies and scapegoating employees. We're also, as you know, fighting and probably breaking public record laws as and conducting itself in a way that seems unethical in an apparent attempt to protect a few people who are not willing to accept responsibility for what happened under their watch. So as leaders representing the community, we are asking the board to take the following actions. Stop the plans to raise the tuition and taxes. Well, too late for that, right? But when reports show the district has nearly $500 million in cash reserves, take immediate action in the matter of the grievance filed by the ITS employees, a large portion of whom happen to be Latino, and a large portion of those employees are, if they haven't been let go, they're being harassed, and others who have quit because of the long harassment. Hold those at the top levels of the administration accountable for the bungled handling of the security breach. Review violation of board policies, staff policies, and the chancellor limitations, and stop the civil rights and Arizona public records law violations from escalating. These are very costly actions that the community should be concerned about, and that you should be as well. You know from your own experience that you don't always get complete administration. In fact, I don't think that complete information from the administration. And so I'm going to ask that you go to a site called maricopabreach.com. All the records are there. I really encourage you to take a look at everything, the media reports, the communications between staffers and administration and their superiors are all there for you to read. And you owe it to yourselves to be fully informed before making judgments that this is not an aberration, that this is this is not something that warrants the attention of the board. We don't think that the governing board has been receiving complete and accurate information to understand what's being done, and because your responsibility is oversight, we think the website will make that job easier. Miguel Corso, an active member of our community and longtime stellar ITS staffer, has been recommended for termination and denied due process and denied every opportunity to defend himself. And it seems the administration is sparing no expense in fabricating a case to scapegoat him. He had a stellar record, stellar performance reviews for years, and it seems that only in coincidence with his raising of the red flags about, problems are going to be happening, then when they did, hey, there are things that we could have done and we should do to fix them, he was stifled and finally scapegoated. There have been policy violations that we're asking the board to get involved in investigating, not just to protect innocent employees, but the well-being of the public at large that you represent. And here are a few examples. There are policies being violated under chancellor limitations, in particular sections 2.0, general chancellor constraints, 2.3, treatment of employees and staff, 2.5, asset protection, and others when it comes to the way the security breach and its financial impact have been handled. Staff policy 14.4, employees are being denied due process in a termination hearing according to section 14.4 of the staff policy manual, which allows an employee to name his own representative in his hearing. Other violations of the section 14 are at play when employees are not allowed to bring witnesses to their own hearings, but the administration can do so. Employment standard policy A-4, the policy was made effective on May 1st, 2013. It is being leveraged now to terminate employees for an action that might have taken place years ago. In other words, it's being applied retroactively for the purpose of punishing employees who have exemplary performance throughout their career and who, according to standards in 2011, were performing their jobs at or above standards based on performance evaluations signed by their superiors. Staff policy B10, personnel files, employees being denied access to their own employee files and other public records. Staff policy C2 regarding grievance procedures and timeline for response are not being followed. The Chancellor ignored crucial grievances by employees and their First Amendment rights. A grievance that should have received a response in 10 days has gone more than a year without a response. And lastly, it appears based on the lawsuits that we're seeing appear, letters from the Arizona Republic lawyers submitted to the district and other public records requests, the district is in violation of public records laws, ARS 39-101 to 161, and potentially open meeting laws. Mr. Corzo himself is being denied due process, and moreover, in the last board meeting, the district administration actually misled the board about records it released per the recipient's report, who, unbeknownst to the district administration, was sitting in the audience at the first April board meeting. It is our understanding that that even the Attorney General may be involved in an investigation of the matters at the district. The bottom line here is that the district is violating policies, procedures, and laws and wasting taxpayer dollars, exposing the organization to great financial risk to protect those at the top, and it's obvious that the board must review the Chancellor limitations and intervene to restore proper governance at the district. We're asking that you open an independent investigation immediately to save the district from further lawsuits and financial damages, protect the public trust in the future of the district and the future of education for our communities. You are in charge. You're ultimately responsible. We will not hesitate to take any necessary actions to stop harassment, discrimination, retaliation, mismanagement, misuse of funds, illegal activities, and any other actions by the district administration that jeopardizes the future of affordable education in Maricopa County. And as this group of Latino leaders in our community, we urge the governing board to get involved, to take action on this and not dismiss it. Thank you. And I'm going to submit these for the record.
Just set them on the table here. Thank you. Next is Dr. Townsend.
Mr. President, I have in my hand here a document that I have not read thoroughly, but there is a section here that talks about suspension of a faculty member. This document is entitled FY 2013-14 Residential Faculty Policy Manual. 3.11, suspension of faculty member. Upon a written statement of charges formulated by the Chancellor charging a faculty member of the MCCCD, the Chancellor or his/her designee may immediately suspend the faculty member and give notice of suspension. At the option of the faculty member, the MCCCD Faculty Association President will be notified of this action. It goes on to say, the notice of suspension shall be in writing and served upon the faculty member, personally or by U.S. registered or certified mail, addressed to the faculty member at his or her place of residence as recorded in the MCCCD records. Any faculty member who has been suspended pursuant to this section would normally be paid his/her regular salary during the period of suspension. A suspension without pay will occur only upon advice of General Counsel. If payment is to be withheld, the Vice Chancellor of Human Resources will first consult with and advise the member, and at the option of the faculty member, the Faculty Association President regarding the rationale for that action. I read that before I wanted to get into a specific. regarding this suspension. I also wanted to say that some board member mentioned something about the expenditures that I mentioned when I was here before had been determined as something. But and as I said before, you can't believe everything you read in the press. But here it says most of the expenditures are undetermined. And this statement was given to the press, I suppose, by a lady by a person by the name of Kim, Granio. Now, if that's incorrect, this is information going out to the public. And most public people believe what they read in the paper. So if this is inaccurate, then it is incumbent upon this board or somebody here to correct it. I have a prepared statement here, and I sent this statement to all of the board members via email.
Mr. Towns, would you like those statements entered into the
Yes,
public
sir.
record?
I would like everything I say here to be included in the public record, in the minutes of the board. This thing says, Mr. President, members of the board, Chancellor Glasper, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Charles Townsell, representing tonight the Political Action Committee of the State Conference of the NAACP and myself, MYSLEF. My last visit with you a month ago, I expressed my concern that there were no African American college presidents in the system. I still maintain this concern and would suggest to you tonight that the next president hired in the district be African American. I know your response, or some responses. We must hire the best qualified. I know. I've done that myself. I've hired the best qualified. Black, blue, pink, white, or brown. They were hired. We must hire the best, I know. But you should know that some of the presidents you have are not necessarily competent or qualified. They were hired because they were white or Hispanic. I'm asking you to do the same for African Americans. I'm confident the person will be competent and qualified. Back in the 60s and 70s, I went out on recruiting African American educators for school districts, colleges, and universities who sought to integrate their faculties and staffs. If there are no outstanding African Americans in the district who could be promoted, just as the chancellor was, you should send out some recruiters. My second concern is Dr. Cleopatra Martinez. And I read your document about how you should handle situations of this nature. I sent an email to board members and the chancellor asking the board to look into this matter. I asked the chancellor to reconsider his decision. I spoke with Mr. Lumm and Mr. Burke. The chancellor did not respond to my email, a sign of disrespect and incompetence. The Education Code stipulates that only the board can hire and fire employees. Even though Dr. Martinez has not been fired, not yet, she's tantamount to having been fired. The board has a fiduciary responsibility to protect the interests of its employees. No one should be placed in the position that Dr. Martinez finds herself. Every employee at Phoenix College should be supporting Dr. Martinez. One of them will be next. In fact, the whole district should be up in arms about the miscarriage of justice. Is the environment in the district so toxic that people are afraid to speak up and speak out? Where has the board been in this saga? Dr. Martinez, on March 25th, asked the board, and I quote, "Accordingly, I ask the board to intervene in my case to rescind the chancellor's suspension and at the very minimum allow me to present proof of what I have stated here." I think at that same meeting, in that letter that Dr. Martinez read to the board, I think she had indicated that somebody wanted to fire her initially. And that committee that she went before exonerated her. And then somebody came along and going to punish her anyway and puts her on suspension. Now, I'm asking the board to look at that suspension policy and see if you violated that by not paying her while she's on suspension. I've only seen her once in my life, and that's when she addressed this board on March 25th. But one thing I do know, what happened to her is an outrage. Has this board responded to her request? If not, that's an outrage. And as I indicated to you on March 25th, I have a heart condition. And let me say tonight that I'm going to be ashamed to die knowing that Dr. Martinez's suspension has not been rectified by the chancellor and this board. And so should you. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the last of those in the public forum. Announcing substitutions tonight in the CEC. We have Dr. Daniel Kaur for Jan Gaylor, Bill Crawford for Linda Lujan, Clay Goodman for Ernie Lara, and Tony Asti for Stephen Gonzalez. Now moving on to the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of the order of the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Under the consent agenda, does anyone wish to remove any of the items from tonight's consent agenda?
Move approval.
Motion's been made to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second is made, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of it, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Under the non-consent agenda, the consideration or approval of reassignment of authorized expenditures for call center services. Chancellor Glasper.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, you have in front of you a request to reassign some authorized expenditures for the call center services. In November of 2013, the governing board authorized spending up to $7 million through Wilson and Elsner through the firm of Kroll, and they were to follow up and provide call center, credit monitoring, and identify restoration services relating to the security incident. There's a balance remaining out of that $7 million, or approximately $3 million, and we would like to have that reassigned directly to the district, and that the district would be responsible for working with Kroll and receiving their invoices and processing them through the duration of their contract. Not to exceed the $3 million.
Is there a motion on this?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the reassignment of authorized expenditures for call center services. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. I might take a moment to mention the fact that we have a meeting twice a month. This is the second meeting. The first meeting of the month is a meeting where we sit down with members of the staff, and board members have the ability to ask lots of questions, and the staff has time to provide the board members with answers to them. So if it sounds like we're rattling through this, we've spent quite a bit of time in the last 2 weeks on each of these items.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Those meetings are open to the public. They could come and hear us talk about that if they wish.
And it's in this room.
They're very exciting.
Next on the agenda is the approval of contract award for the 2014 annual summer pavement maintenance program district-wide. Ms. Thompson.
Mr. President, members of the board, this is part of our 2004 bond program. Annually, every summer, when there are fewer faculty, staff, and students at our campuses, we do repaving of parking lots and driveways. We have 32 parking lots and driveways that we'll be working on this summer at 11 locations, and we recommend its approval.
Move approval?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Next is the approval of contract award for the 2014, is that what I just said?
That's different.
Drainage.
Oh, this is drainage, I'm
Right.
sorry. 2014 parking lot drainage and paving projects in multiple locations throughout the district. Ms. Thompson.
Mr. President, members of the board, this is also part of our 2004 program and annual work that we do at a number of the colleges around drainage and paving improvements in those areas. And we
Thank you.
recommend its approval.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved?
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve a contract award for the 2014 parking lot drainage and paving projects in multiple college locations. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Next item is the approval of contract award for audiovisual system for the new Performing Arts Center at Australia Mountain Community College. Ms. Thompson.
Mr. President, members of the board, this is part of the development of our Performing Arts Center at the Australia Mountain Community College location. Originally, in the late 1990s, Dr. Elsner put in place a program to bring on performing arts centers at all of the colleges that lack those facilities and to remodel the existing facilities. We originally issued revenue bonds for this purpose, but we, in the last couple of years, defeased the outstanding debt on the revenue bonds, and we moved those resources that had been paying the debt service into the operating budget where they were very sorely needed to help us absorb different cuts. So we've been paying with our bond, our fund balance and net assets that we've been talking about earlier for the Australia Mountain PAC, as well as a future project at Gateway and the remodels that we did. And we recommend approval of the acquisition of this equipment.
Thank you.
Move to accept item.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Yeah, we're pretty excited to get a new performing arts center on the far west side, and appreciate board support on this.
Motion's been made and seconded for the approval of a contract award for audiovisual system for the new Performing Arts Center at Australia Mountain Community Colleges. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Next item is the approval of contract awards for purchase of the orchestra shell, modular practice rooms, music stands and chairs, and platform risers for the new Performing Arts Center at Mesa Community College. Ms. Thompson.
Mr. President, members of the board, some years back, the district purchased on behalf of the college the Harkins Theater neighboring, or the former Harkins Theater neighboring the college, as well as a former Fuddruckers facility. And this is for the outfitting of the Harkins Theater that's being converted into another performing arts center for the college.
Move approval?
Motion's been made and seconded for the approval of contract awards for the purchase of the orchestra shell, modular practice rooms, music stands and chairs, and platform risers for the new Performing Arts Center at Mesa Community College. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Next item is the approval of contract awards for the Bluford Hall roof replacement at Chandler Gilbert Community College Williams campus. Ms. Thompson.
Mr. President, members of the board, this is another project that's part of our 2004 bond programming, and it is to replace about 96,000 square feet of current roofing and replace it with more current spray foam roof and coating, and that has a 20-year warranty, and we recommend its approval.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved?
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the contract award for Bluford Hall roof replacement at Chandler Gilbert Community College Williams campus. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to Human Resources. Item number 1 is the approval of extension of the current staff policy manual. Ms. Shelton Johnson.
President Saar, members of the board, this is a request, or we recommend that the governing board extend the current staff policy manual through September 30th, 2014. This extension will allow the administration and the MCCCD All CPD team the time necessary to complete the negotiations on a subsequent manual to be presented to the governing board at a later date.
So you'd like the approval of the extension of the current staff policy manual through September 30th, 2014.
Correct.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion's been made by Mr. Gutierrez, seconded
Second,
by Mr. Burke. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Next item is the approval of extension of the current residential faculty policy manual. Shelton Johnson.
President Saar, members of the board, it is recommended to the governing board that we extend the current residential faculty policy manual also through to September 30th, 2014.
move approval.
Motion's been made and seconded for the approval of the extension of the current residential faculty policy manual to September 30th, 2014. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Next on the agenda, under Human Resources, is the approval of employee group salary schedule proposals for 2014-15. Ms. Shelton Johnson.
President Saar, members of the board, this is a recommendation that the governing board authorize compensation adjustments for fiscal year 14-15 as follows. The salary schedules for residential faculty, MAT, crafts, safety, PSA, M&O, CEC, athletic specialists, and the skill centers to receive a 1% salary adjustment to the current fiscal year 13-14 salary schedules. Employees in those employee groups just listed will receive the 1% increase except as follows. Employees who are redlined, which are those employees who are earning more than top of the scale, to receive a 0.5% increase. The adjunct faculty rate and the residential faculty overload rate will be $863 per load hour, which represents a 1% increase over the current rate. And the professional growth funds increase in the amount of $269,029 for the following employee groups: MAT, PSA, M&O, and safety. As an educational institution, Maricopa is concerned about student retention. As an employer, we are also concerned about employee retention. Salary adjustments are a necessary part of our organization's effort to recruit and retain quality employees in order to provide quality services to achieve desired outcomes. This recommendation is consistent with revenue and expenditure projections shared in recent board meetings as well as this one.
Thank you.
I move approval.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded for the approval of group salary schedule proposals for 2014-2015 as presented here tonight and in paper form with us tonight as well. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Number 4, under Human Resources, is the approval of temporary pay rates for fiscal year 2014 and 15. Ms. Shelton Johnson.
Okay, President Saar, members of the board, this is also a recommendation that the governing board authorize a compensation adjustment for fiscal year 14 and 15 to the temporary pay rates. This is to reflect a 1% increase over the current fiscal year 13-14 rates. Temporary employees would receive a 1% increase to their pay, not to exceed the maximum of the assigned pay range or the single pay rate associated with the job. Temporary employees do play a vital role in ensuring the smooth operation of the district. By offering short-term employment, we preserve our ability to maintain uninterrupted service levels to our students during workload peaks, for special projects, when regular board-approved employees are on leave, and as vacant positions are recruited.
Thank you. We hear a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Mr. Burke moves and is seconded to approve the temporary pay rates for 2014-15. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Last item under Human Resources is the approval of charter school salary schedules for Phoenix College Preparatory Academy and Gateway Early College High School proposals for 2014-2015. Ms. Shelton Johnson.
President Saar, members of the board, this recommendation is that the governing board authorize the compensation adjustments for fiscal year 14-15 as follows. The salary schedule for the Phoenix College Preparatory Academy and Gateway Early College High School to receive a 1% salary adjustment to the current fiscal year 13-14 salary schedule. Employees associated with the charter school salary schedule will receive a 1% salary increase, except as indicated as follows. Employees who are redline, which again are those employees who are earning more than top of the scale, will receive a 0.5% increase.
Move to approve this item.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the charter school salary schedule for Phoenix College Preparatory Academy and Gateway Early College High School. Their proposals for 2014-2015. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is a review of proposed revision to Governing Board Policy 4.9, Board Committee Structure. It's under the Chancellor, but Chancellor, we're passing that to me.
Yes, I am, sir.
Over the last few months, the board has talked about establishing subcommittees to address specific parts of our policies to make sure that they're relevant and that they reflect what the community of Maricopa County is looking to us to provide. We've had several possibilities as to which committees we want to have. This is a first reading, and we've got 4 or 5 different committees that have been discussed. And as soon as I get to them here. One of them is a policy committee. Where we basically focus on our 4 outcomes to make sure that they're relevant and make sure that they're measurable and to bring to the board any recommendations for changes to those 4 policies or additions to those 4. Another one is the board and chancellor evaluation. That subcommittee could work with how we evaluate both ourselves and the chancellor in future years. Another one is budget and finance. That committee, a subcommittee, would be made up of at least 2 board members and staff members assigned by the chancellor to dig deeper into our financing and our budgeting process. Because we have the 2 charter schools we just talked about a bit ago, another subcommittee would be made up of 2 board members and others as the chancellor would assign to look into the requirements that boards have to monitor K-12 schools, such as their budget, their calendar, and a couple other items that are unique to the K-12. And human resources, to go into our human resources policies under limitations to make sure that they are relevant and that they're meeting the needs of our faculty, staff, and students. Potentially some other ones down the road would be an information technology subcommittee, since that's becoming a big part of our operation. A committee made up of board members and staff to make sure that we have information technology that is safe, secure, and meets the needs of everybody involved. And there may be others down the road as well. What I'd like to do at our next regularly scheduled board meeting a month from now is to do a second reading of these to make sure that board members are okay with these subcommittees, since that is the way that our subcommittee structure subcommittees are structured. Our current policy says that there are none, so we do need to make that change if we want to do that. So it's a matter of looking at each of these proposed subcommittees and maybe some others. We'll vote on whether or not we want to establish those committees, and then the chair, along with board members, will assign us to those subcommittees on a volunteer basis. We don't get paid for that either. So if there's comments and thoughts on these, I'll listen to them now. Mr. Burke.
We have a standing committee now, the Audit and Finance Committee. And that committee looks at audits of district college programs, but it also looks at finances at the district. And I would recommend that we add audit and finance here and change budget and finance just to budget.
Would the fact that that committee is not a subcommittee of the governing board have any relevance? I understand what it does and so forth.
It's a committee of the governing board. The committee.
We have two liaisons.
Outside representatives, okay, all right.
I understand where you're going, but
Yeah.
that committee is a little different structure than what we're talking about
Okay,
here.
all right. Agreed.
Not that I ever pick on anybody, but
I think it's a good idea that we go and look at some committees and be able to spend more time analyzing certain topics. I think this covers the gamut. I really appreciate you bringing this up, and I'm glad we're having the first reading and moving forward with this.
I do have a concern. The purpose of these is policy.
Right.
And I'm assuming that we are looking at the chancellor's limitations when we're talking about policy.
among the first quadrant as well.
Well, but it's within the policies that we currently have.
Mhm.
Right. So we have to, when we address anything in the committee, we're looking at the limitations and.
Well, like I said, the policy committee that I have here is focused mostly on the outcomes. The outcomes policies. We have 4 of them now. To determine, number one, in my mind at least, and we can have this discussion, whether they're still relevant, whether they're still measurable according to the way we have our current structure, and whether or not we want to add any or subtract any of them. But we want to cover basically all of the governing board policies, which include the 4 quadrants.
Right.
At some point in time, I think.
That's my point. We have to look at those quadrants for issues that we discuss in the committees.
Correct.
Do we want to put a focus on, more of an area to focus on what we can cover in the committees?
I think in our discussion tonight and maybe a month from now, and in the time ensuing, that we think about that. What specific tasks each of the committees that we approve will have.
I think that it's important that we also include and have these discussions and be inclusive of the chancellor and other people within the district that also are a part of the quadrants or the areas, because I feel like that it's important that we are focused on that the whole entire focus is on how we as board members, working with the chancellor, with the different people at the district level, that we would be impacting with these kind of conversations and approaches. That it's to build, it's to make better, it's to improve, it's to encourage, motivate, inspire, to make better. That there cannot be any tolerance for any kind of agenda other than that. And that we're here to find out how we can better understand what is needed, what goes on, and what we can do to make a difference and to improve through our better understanding and through participation in this kind of form, our being behind take us to those ends.
Right. The one thing that I've said all along is that at least a couple board members on each committee, so keeping in mind that we have 5 of us now, we'll have 7 of us after the first of the year sometime, and that the chancellor has the authority to assign the staff that he feels would be relevant to each of the committees that we approve to make those committees more effective. Does that make sense to you?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, in current drafts, the chancellor is assigned to at least 5 committees, which has the potential to be as many as 7 or more. And assigning staff and assigning me to 7 committees, I think, is going to be a challenge. And it's going to be one that will require the board to, and me, to make some decisions about whether or not I'm at a community meeting or I'm running the district.
I think that you
So-
can have a surrogate, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I think that it's just, this is how I took it. It didn't mean you had to be there, but that it's more that you have lots of people that we can talk to that are more appropriate, not that you're not, that are more, that their time could be better spent working with us. But I think the message, intention, if I get this right, correct me if wrong, is that it is in recognition that we're working with you, not.
However, Mrs. Pearson, you're not working with me if I'm not represented at a board committee that is making policy decisions in this district, and I am not able to make it. So that'll be a priority choice that I'm going to have to make.
But you can make that assignment to some.
With all due respect, I try to make every audit committee, I try to make every board meeting, and I will make every committee meeting that is about district policy. I mean, I think it's inappropriate for the chancellor not to be there.
Yeah, you know, that's, to me, just a second, that is up to you, and I totally understand what you're saying. But number one, we haven't decided which of these we're actually going to implement at this point, and do that in a month from now. And two, I think we have to do, each committee has to do a job that's approved of defining its role and what it wants to accomplish over a certain period of time. I'm going to ask Mr. Gutierrez first
But to
here.
that point, what we were talking about is, and what I started to say, but that I really respect that. I really do.
Me too.
I have a lot of respect for that. And I feel that we really need to make sure that we understand as a board our responsibility for what we expect of this man, what we expect him to do. We expect him to be a national leader, a state leader, a regional leader. We expect him to be our marketing, our publicist, I mean, everything. So while I respect what he's saying and how seriously he takes his responsibility for having to be at every corner of the globe and at every event, from ACCT to ACT, I just want to express that I also feel that in working with the vice chancellors, when it comes to budget, or when it comes to HR, or when it comes to other things, that not to exclude you from them, but to have confidence in that when you are here, that's great, and that they can cover for you and then brief you or keep you apprised. We are stretching you thin, so we're not asking it to allow us to be more of a happy.
Well, I will make the decision as appropriate when the board makes this decision.
Good. Mr. Gutierrez?
No, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted, my own view of this is that I am here to do 2 things and 2 things only. One of them is not to manage the district, micro or otherwise. But I perceive my responsibility as a board member to have two major decisions. One is to set policy for the district. It is for the chancellor and the president and the staff to implement that policy, but to set the policy for this district. I think that we have to do that as a board, whether there are subcommittees that recommend to the board or what that process you choose to move into, Mr. Chairman. But ultimately, our role is to set policy for this district. The other role is to set the budget for this district. It is not to adopt a budget for this district, it is to set the budget for this district. The budget is a policy document. It is the document that guides this community college system for a year. And frankly, by setting, as we did today, setting some items in motion for many, many years to come. And so I think that we do have to have a greater role at understanding that budget. I, along with all of you, received essentially a finished document in February, and we have moved forward on that document. I think it's our responsibility to, in a much earlier stage, become involved and knowledgeable of what's in this document. And we all recognize that the budget sets priorities. It sets the policy of the district. So those are the two areas that I think that we have an absolute responsibility to become involved in. Again, it's not our responsibility to manage the district, but it is our responsibility to set policy and to set the budget. Whatever the budget is will require our actions to raise taxes again or not. It will have a consequence, and I don't think we have to receive it late. We have to receive it early. We have to be knowledgeable. Should we construct the budget? No, but I think we ought to at least be clear from time to time what our budget priorities are, so that those who are constructing the budget, that is the presidents and the governance committees that they have assigned to this, that the chancellor, know what priorities we feel are important for the future. So that's how I perceive it. Those are the two fundamental issues that we're here to do.
Thank you. We'll talk about this on the meeting of June 10th as well as we go through agenda review. With any discussion that we want to have, but we'll take the actual vote on those subcommittees that the board feels are necessary on the meeting a month from today. And in the meantime, board members can look at the list that is in your board documents today to see if you want more information on those or want to add to that list. That's obviously possible as well. Next thing on the agenda are monitoring reports. Tonight is the budget analysis summary, Fund 1, the general unrestricted fund for the 10 months ending April 30th, 2014. Ms. Thompson.
Mr. President, members of the board, the monthly budget analysis report compares in the general fund actual revenue collections to the budget and actual expenditures to the budget. It also provides a comparison of collection and expenditure rates for the current period for the 3 prior fiscal years. In terms of revenues, through April, we've collected 89.5% of budget. That compares with a range of 87.2 to 93.8 in the prior 3 years. As I've indicated in the past, and you know, our major revenue source is property taxes, about 60% of the budget, and there are 2 major collection periods for property taxes, October and November, and then again in April and May. Through April, we've collected 89.5% of property taxes. That's a little higher than usual, but sometimes that's just a matter of timing, that people are paying earlier than they might have, so they're paying more in April than in May. In terms of expenditures, they compare to prior years as well. About 69.4% has been expended through April versus a range of 69 to 71.7 in the prior 3 years.
Any questions or comments from the board members? Thank you, Ms. Thompson. You have some?
No comment.
Next, we have the governing board reports. We'll start with Mr. Burke.
Let's see, I'm just, I went to 2011 convocations and graduations this last month.
We did. Mr. Lumm.
I want to congratulate Glendale. I attended their graduation, and it was just a beautiful job, well organized, and Of course, I attended the ones from Rio, but I'm really proud of Glendale. I'm sorry I wasn't able to attend the one at Fairmount this year.
Mr. Gutierrez?
Mr. Chairman, I spent a morning at Glendale College, and I just continue to be amazed as I've sat and been briefed by presidents, vice presidents, faculty members at each of the colleges at the extraordinary talent, the overwhelming brain power that is there. I'm humbled by it. Someone at the last meeting called me Dr. Gutierrez. I do have a doctorate, but I won mine in the lottery. And so I had to correct them and ask them not to refer to me as a doctor. But I truly want you all to know, it's just the extraordinary intelligence, intellectual ability of this district as you go from college to college, and I think I've visited all now, is amazing. It's just, and the excitement and the commitment that you feel from faculty and from the administration and from staff. And that goes as far as to say from staff who are non-related to the classroom, people who are driving me around in little carts, or people that I'm running into in libraries. I mean, everyone is excited to be part of this system, and that's a great place to be. So thank you.
Ms. Pearson?
And I went to Estrella's Estrella Mountain's graduation, and it was really moving. It was wonderful.
Mrs. Pearson?
Thank you. I had the privilege of being at Paradise Valley Community College's graduation, and it was awesome. And I want to thank Dr. Doyle and his staff and everyone that did such an amazing job, and for the work that he's done to come up with a wise use of facilities and agreements. And I think that we need to look to Paradise Valley in the way that they have done this to help us to make sure that we are seeing more of these kinds of opportunities for these kinds of partnerships. I think this is important, as we are with South, with the Phoenix, or with the, City of Phoenix, right? Library. Thank you. As I see these kinds of things in the district, it just really makes me feel confident about the future because of this kind of genius that we have and this kind of commitment to doing things that work best and looking outside the box of ideas. And the graduation, the students, everything about it was just really amazing to see this 15-year-old, Dr. Dale helped me out with four associate's degrees. Scary, absolutely scary. It was just amazing to even be in the same room with him, and it was an awesome experience. And it reminds you why we do what we do and why it's so important. Because not only are we the opportunity for those like my single moms I work with, helping them get off of welfare and out of poverty, it's also for that 15-year-old. I had a son at 15 that went to community college because he needed that in his life to go a different direction than what public school could give to him. And I'm so grateful community college was there as a tool for me as a parent to address that child's needs and his educational needs. This is what we're all about. We're the out-of-the-box institutions, and for those out-of-the-box kids. And I want to thank every one of you, Dr. Dale, all of you, for recognizing that opportunity and seizing it every chance you get and making a difference. And that'll be my last graduation. I will be leaving the board. And so it was really an emotional experience. And I thank you.
Thank you. I say what everybody else said. We spent time with a lot of students in the last month. In my case, I went to the first MVET convocation. I thought it was outstanding for the first time. another Phoenix College success story there. We sat here a couple weeks ago for the SPIF students who presented their projects. Just outstanding group of students. I visited with students at Paradise Valley and Chandler Gilbert who were science oriented. I went out to Australia Mountain for the same type of thing. We have some remarkable success in our students, and I congratulate all of the 10,000 employees or whatever it is today for making that happen. And to the person who was in charge of weather last Friday for graduation, I want to thank that person.
We were inside.
I'll take credit.
You will. Okay, thank you. All right. Next is the Chancellor's report. Dr. Glasper.
Just a couple of comments this evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. First and foremost, for the graduation ceremonies, I just want to congratulate all of the colleges for the student speakers. I mean, they were outstanding at the different graduations and convocations that I was able to attend, and I'm sure they were throughout the district. They are excellent selections, and the compassion, the commitment, the sacrifice, everything you want to say about the challenges of our students, they are the epitome of everything that we work for every day, and I just wanted to thank you and acknowledge those students. Maricopa priorities, just a brief update. We have reached a milestone in terms of the largest systemic initiative in our history in terms of looking at our organization and asking a basic question, all else equal, should we be doing business the same way we did 50 years ago or last year, or looking at our future? How do we do business differently? What programs and staffing changes or others should we be looking at to become more effective and more efficient? All of our colleges are meeting the first deadline of bringing in those division and department program reviews, administrative and academic as well. There's mixed emotions. There's still some intrepidation and a little fear about such a large initiative and where it's going, but I just want to thank all of our colleges for their continued support of this initiative, and I do believe that it'll produce a product that we can use as we move forward over the next year and subsequent years as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted to make one more comment, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Whoever it is that has the tribal, the Native American graduation next year, please double the size that Paradise Valley used this year of the room or the facility or the place for doing it. So whoever you are, be sure you make it big and get prepared for a growing number of Native Americans graduating.
You know, I have to think too, college presidents, you have a selection of 7 of us next year, so good luck. Next on the agenda is the report from the Faculty Executive Council. Dr. Finkenstead.
Thank you. Keith Hefner actually is going to be giving these reports, but he's out of town right now, so on his behalf, I'll simply say no report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Lynn Mary for the PSA group. Here?
She's not here.
Okay. No reports from the vice chancellors or college reports, so let's move to Mr. Burke with the report on the AADGB.
The AADGB met on May the 1st, and we are in the process of planning a government institute on student success. If we can work out logistics with ACCT. Ostensibly, it will be next March or April, following the legislative conference in Washington. But we're polling trustees among the 10 districts to see who can attend, and we will continue to plan that institute in September and in the fall. And so I want to alert all of you about the GIS. It's an institute that talks about policies that encourages student success. Lumina Foundation funds that, and I think it's tied to the proposal that we passed in 2010 to increase graduations by students in 2020. So that's the focus of it, and I will give you more information as the AADGB discusses it.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Lumm for ASBA.
The Arizona School Board Association is having their summer a retreat. It'll be in Flagstaff at Little America on July 26th to the 24th. It should be a good event if you get a chance to get away. I'm not sure I could make it. I'd like to, but I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make it myself. But I encourage you to look up the agenda at Arizona School Board Association website and notify staff here if you are able to attend.
Good. I have an ACCT, which is the Association of Community College Trustees National Board meeting in New York State coming up in July. I sit on the Board of Trustees for that organization here for a while yet, and looking forward to that. Then we'll establish a lot of direction on programs that have been in the mix for quite some time. It's kind of nice to see them finally come to some kind of good result in the end. Next on the agenda is Mr. Bernie Rowan to give us our government relations report. I know, but it says him here. There's nothing to report because they just went into session today on something that we have nothing really to deal with.
Nothing.
I think Don Wallace is here to do it.
Don, are you up?
Yeah, but there's no report.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Chancellor CEC. The reason I didn't get up is because there's actually no report tonight, so. Sure. They did go into special session today, but it was related to the Office of Child Safety, which impacts us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, before you adjourn, can I make one more announcement?
Absolutely.
Effective September 1st, I will be a new trustee for the Higher Learning Commission.
Oh, congratulations.
Yes. And they currently meet on the same day of your committee meetings.
Yeah. Okay. Our next meeting dates are July 10th, the agenda review in the governing board room right here, and June 24th, our regular board meeting held right here at the governing board room. That all being said, this meeting is adjourned.